I am Lamont at large. Today, I am at the 300 South block of John Reddit here in Lufkin, Texas, standing in front of the Fox Run Apartments. I'm here to ask a question. Who is the man that's responsible for the murder of Megan Curl? At the time of her murder, Megan Curl was a resident of Lufkin for about 5 years. Now, she never really had an easy life. When she was about 5 years old, that she was diagnosed with a mild learning disability. However, even though that was in her way in terms of leading a productive and normal life, people would say that she was still very kind. Even when her classmates would taunt her and make fun of her, her mother would say she would just turn around and always give them back a kind word and a smile. Her mother would also say that Megan was very outgoing and unfortunately very trusting. On March 25th of 2000, Megan went out clubbing. Presumably she had went by herself, and she had visited a bar in town called the Electric Cowboy. And when she was there, she loved dancing. She had a couple drinks. Witnesses say that she was talking to a man at the Electric Cowboy that nobody had really seen before, because that place was really for locals. You know, this city doesn't really get too many tourists, so people were kind of not surprised, but they had never seen him before. And they noticed that he had bought her several drinks, and she got on the floor and started dancing. Well, maybe she had drank a little bit too much, because she started dancing very provocatively. And I guess some of the people didn't take too kindly to it, being a somewhat of a conservative area here in Texas. And so management had asked her to leave. So she leaves the Electric Cowboy and goes to a second club right down the street called the Sport Shack. She finishes out her night and gets a ride from an employee, and he brings her back home over here. Now, at the time that Megan lived here, she had a downstairs neighbor that night that sat up waiting for her. She knew that Megan was slightly developmentally challenged and worried about her, so she stayed up that night waiting for her to arrive home. So Megan pulls up in the employee's car around 1:30 in the morning. She hops out, walks upstairs to her neighbor. Her neighbor's like, "Hey, what's going on? How was your night?" She said, "It's fine, blah, blah, blah. I got kicked out of the Electric Cowboy." And they start talking. And as they're talking, another car pulls up half hurriedly, screeching its brakes as it arrives. And Megan remarked that that was the guy from the bar that she had met that night. Of course, the neighbor did not recognize him. And she said that she was going to go downstairs and go talk to him. And so Megan's neighbor goes inside, and that's it. So a few hours later, she's kind of just a little worried still. So she knocks on Megan's apartment just to make sure everything is okay. And Megan says, "Oh yeah, everything's fine." So she peers into the apartment and sees the guy sitting on her couch. She described him as, had a baby face, looked like he was in his 20s, smaller frame build, had wire-rimmed glasses. Of course, she did not recognize him, and Megan didn't really tell her about who he was or really anything of that nature. And that was the last person to see Megan Curl alive. About an hour or so after Megan's neighbor checked on her, a little after 4 a.m., the Lufkin Fire Department received a 911 call that apartment 616 was on fire, and they arrived here, sirens blazing, and they went to the apartment, but it was locked, and they could see smoke and flame coming from the bedroom. The firefighters quickly broke open the window, climbed inside the apartment, and started extinguishing the blaze. And after the smoke had cleared, to their horror, they discovered the body of a woman who was later identified as Megan Curl. According to the crime scene investigators, she was wearing a negligee, some kind of a sleeping garment. Now, according to Megan Curl's past boyfriends, her normal sleeping attire would have been like shorts and a t-shirt. But if she had planned to be intimate, she would wear something a little bit more frilly. And homicide detectives feel that the man that is responsible for her murder, she knew him and trusted him enough that she was going to be having an intimate night with him. And that is the apartment right there where Megan Curl was murdered. It would be the door upstairs on the right. Currently, I'm at 732 Timberland. This is where the Electric Cowboy used to be right here. It is now abandoned. No businesses here. It's in this little strip mall next to a Chinese buffet. And this is, of course, the place where Megan Curl was kicked out as she was dancing. Now, the unidentified male that she was seen talking with and getting drinks bought for, the people at the bar that night described him as being a darker complexioned gentleman of possibly Latino descent. Now, homicide investigators don't feel that he is the one responsible for her murder. However, they do want to talk to him if he were available. I'm going to put a picture of his an artist's rendition that they had drew of what he possibly might look like. Again, he's not a suspect. They just kind of want to talk to him and, to see if he can add anything to the case. Maybe he's seen the murderer talking to her. Maybe they were all three together at this bar the same night. And finally, I am at the White House Cemetery here in Lufkin, and this is the grave of Megan Curl. Megan Kristen Romero, October 1st, 1973 to March 26, 2000, and inscribed on the stone is, "This is my beloved daughter in whom I'm well pleased." I don't know why the last name Romero is on the stone and not Curl, but neither here nor there. This girl, I've been following this case for many, many years. I would always look up her name to see if the murderer had been caught yet. Even when I did not have this channel, when I was just a person washing dishes, working one job from another, just traveling, I always wanted to come to this grave to visit her. And I've always wondered about her as time has gone on. If you want to talk about overkill, she was suffocated, strangled, had a plastic bag tied over her head. Her throat was cut twice and set on fire. This murder, over 20 years not solved. And it looks like possibly it might never be solved, but there's always me just kind of, reminding people this, all because somebody has committed the crime and she's dead, it doesn't mean that it's over. There is no statute of limitations on murder. Even when people would make fun of her, she would never say mean things back to them. And for somebody to do this to a girl that was so trusting, it's very heartbreaking and tragic, to say the least. Rest in peace to this young girl, Megan, and God rest her soul. The sketch on the left is the man believed to be responsible for the murder of Megan Curl. The sketch on the right is the man seen buying drinks for Megan that night at the Electric Cowboy. Megan's ex-boyfriend Tim Purvis was considered a suspect in her murder. Before she died, she had testified about him being abusive, which led to his parole being revoked. He was released from prison about 1 week prior to her murder. However, he had an alibi for that night. He later died in an accident in 2003. In 2012, a retiring Lufkin police officer stated that they believe they know who killed Megan. However, they did not have enough evidence to charge the individual. This case remains unsolved. If anybody has any information on the man responsible for Megan Curl's murder, please give the Angelina County Sheriff's Department a call. 936-634-3331.